All right, welcome to This Week in Hypercycle. We have Toufii here, our special guest. Thank you very much, Toufii. This week we have a couple of questions from the audience here for you, if you're willing to answer those, and then we'd like to talk about what you see as the future of Hypercycle and some other stuff coming up that you're excited about. So we have Todd here ready to ask a question. Probably to intro things out the gate that I think a lot of people are kind of want to know the answer to. So,
yeah, Toufii, my question is: you talked to us a while back about HyperPG and the flat rate that they would pay, but you also talked about once compute came online that there would be hyper pools, and you explained kind of the breakout of revenue for that being like the people running the hardware data centers. There would be a percentage for them. There would be a percentage for the programmers. 1% back to Hypercycle, and then also the people, the software licenses and tokens that were married, that would be somewhere around maybe 32% or something like that. Do you still see those ratios playing out kind of the same in the hyper pools? And what kind of time frame, if you have any, for when compute's available that we could direct things to that compute?
Sure, yeah. What we have envisioned back then is still 100% applicable. We've envisioned there's like 5 beneficiaries, and we're like more like the number 6. And just to repeat those 5 beneficiaries, they're like you need, in order, whenever a compute runs, who benefits from those compute? They're the HYPC holders, the software license holders, the AI developers, putting the and the hardware and the facility, energy, ISP, internet, all of these things. And there's 1% for life that Hypercycle is so upfront with everyone, collects 1%. That's how this company makes money. I mean, selling licenses is more like the model of like the Gillette model. The real way that this company is going to make money is at 1%. That's what the people they trust this company is going to continue to sustain itself because it has that 1%. Now, when does it collect that 1%? That's extremely important. That it's not. This is not transaction fee. This is on royalties. If everyone makes 99%, then it makes 1%. So it's like, everybody wins, then it wins. Now, when we look at those percentages, we've envisioned them to be like maybe 25%, 30%, 40%. The combination of them, if your question is like around 32%, I think that's quite accurate in the vast majority of the times. But also, it's like any business. If you sometimes have some specific client who's only willing to pay you, let's say 2%, but that client is just going to get like this ginormous amount of like computation and big server, whatnot, and you feel like maybe I'll do it, maybe not. So you might still consider something like that. But I think the average is probably going to always be around like that 32%, because that seems to make sense across the board. The AI developers, for example, we felt that they're likely to take 25%, and this is something that many AI developers around the world, they feel like that they want to monetize that AI that they've built, whether it is open source or closed source. So it's good for them. Everybody wins when there's true value being added to humanity, and the true value comes in that there's some AI requesting this AI for some work. You wouldn't have requested that work unless some human somewhere is benefiting from it. So that's why I kind of emphasize that the baseline has to be some true value being added to humanity for this thing to grow. If that baseline doesn't exist, this entire castle can be castle on sand to make sure that it's actually on rock solid foundation. So yeah, that's a long answer to your question, but this short answer is like,
I think too, what is being asked very succinctly is these guys have a lot of licenses and tokens, which are 2 parts of that equation, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just say HyperPG has the hardware. Is there going to be a proposal in place to where these guys can put their licenses and their tokens and garner a percentage of the AI compute here soon, where HyperPG is going to get 32% as a hardware provider, and these guys are going to get a percent by sticking their licenses that are married with their token stacks all together and get their percentage from like HyperPG.
Yeah, so possibly that would be, and if it's not going to be HyperPG, someone else
will take it, right?
There's a lot of folks that they're showing interest. We're open and transparent to the entire world as Hypercycle as a company, that we have up to 45% to invest in HyperPG, which gets diluted as they get more and more financing and stuff like that. But because of that, we're trying to leverage that position to get as much knowledge as possible to share on both sides, which is beneficial to both sides. So we're not really divulging information that could hurt folks. We're just divulging information that could benefit folks. We're being very selective. But at the same time, it's driving a lot of other companies to feel like, oh, why would I let HyperPG do this? Why can't I do it? So then they start doing it. It sets that model really well, which is good for also for HyperPG, because we're entering a territory that it's let's put it this way: if you were to do the math on all the nodes that we could sell over the next 9 months, let's say our sale, we sell all the nodes that we've got, everything by the end of this year, and we've got everything next year, all of them plugged in. Remember, that means that they still have the potential to grow about 1,000 times. So that's okay,
4 times, right? Yeah.
All of them, they're plugged in. How much stake of the entire world computation is that? I mean, even if it is 0.1%, that means we're talking about this company is like already in like an $800 billion company. I'm just saying like how the math works. Like if we really need to get to that 1% of the entire world's computation into those, that would be astronomical into like how much value we're bringing to this equation. So we're being very realistic, and we keep basing things on the lowest possible number that we feel is not sand, is rock solid. And that number, so far we're thinking about it, that is a $10 per node in AI computation. So somebody might want to take percentage of that and take it home, called cash out, some other group that they want it to grow. But it's opening up a lot of opportunities for people to partake in play, especially folks that they can handle complexity. People that they want a very, very, very simple thing, which is 99% of the world. They want one single thing. If they want that single thing, they can take it, they can cash out. The others, they can handle complexity, end up getting a bigger chunk.
Yeah, that's great. So why don't we speak a little bit to the process, maybe the flip side of what you talked about, how this is going to be growing exponentially going forward, right? With all the AI compute that's going to be needed and stuff like that. What's the pathway for Hypercycle to get all those AI compute, or get all that AI compute working with Hypercycle, so that I guess the revenue starts coming?
Right. So we had already started something in September, October, and in November. Many times when we're doing the Speak in Hypercycle, I kind of said to folks that like, look, I'd rather we talk about things that we did as opposed to things that we will do, because when we plan something that we will do, we know with certainty we're going to do it. Otherwise, we're not going to talk about it. But the timelines, the reason the timeline sometimes changes is because we're trying to optimize about something and not making it semi-optimized. So, for example, I'm just going to give you an example of what's happening right now, which is super exciting. Okay, so we said that we're going to plug one of those like compute companies that they've got like about 70 million users. We didn't really say who they are. That's okay. People, they will find out eventually. And they have 70 million users. They have about 3 million active users like on daily basis. That's huge. And if these guys, they're going to be plugged into the whole like Hypercycle network, of course, it's going to like boost like the whole thing. And we said we were going to plug them in January. That's because they're committed. They were committed to us. They're going to in January. It's us that we said that like we need to push it. Why? Well, we figured that the amount of effort that like HyperPG is requesting from folks to come in on board, they're saying like first you have to have a minimum of $100,000 of AI compute per month, so then we can consider talking to you. Second, we need to look into this entire AI stack and see if it's actually could be beneficial into the Internet of AI. And then, and we gave a metaphor on that, like, why would they do this? And I can get to the whole burger metaphor a little bit later. But but what happened during that period of time, we realized it's like that effort that is needed to work with the deployers of Hyper-PG and that engineering, that AI company is something that they're willing to tolerate. But how many AI companies are willing to tolerate? That's the question we ask ourselves. And maybe not a lot. So which is kind of like we're working on a proof that can work against us, because like, oh, this much effort. We saw how much effort you put with that one. We don't want to do the same. We're like, wait a second. So then we're not going to pull the trigger on these ones yet until we get some aspects that they are a lot more optimized, so that we don't have to spend a lot of effort ourselves and they don't have to do a lot of effort ourselves. So we went and started talking about having two teams running in parallel. And then we came in the middle of the entire equation and said, you guys have PG, you said that you have those deployers who want to do it manually. How about that there's an automated system that does that? And that automated system may not necessarily take care of the entire thing, but let's say 99% of all the aspects of those AI. How can you install any AI into the Hypercycle computation node? So then there's a software package that is being built to do this. And instead of having that software package be built to be internal to the company, which can be very subjective, we hired an external group and we did partnership with them, similar to this with Hyper-PG. We keep doing that model to kind of like grow the ownership into so many different companies. And that one, we have a 45% also ownership to invest into that company. And that group, they have 45%. That company will own the installer of other software into Hypercycle. So if somebody, let's say, spent $3,000 on the node, and they spent $10 license for this one, then that $10 gives them the ability throughout the entire year to install so many software in and out. At the end of the year, they renew it $10 to keep installing all kind of other software into the Hypercycle computation node. So that automation requires time. So we started working on automation with a lot of open source software. We've tested it so far. We're getting like great results with that. So then when we plug that 70 million users, and at the same time, we have now several of them, not only one. So then when we're building that proof, now we can go out to the world and say, like, we plugged like the 3 companies that they have about, on average, let's say 20 million users. And here's the process that we did we plug them. And if anybody's going to look at the proof, they talk to the CTO of that company. They're like, oh man, yeah, they were easy peasy, as opposed to, oh, it was so hard. But yes, we're saving $80,000 a month, but it was so hard.
Right, but you're making a pathway for everybody to participate easier than just like these big ones to go through this huge process. Which once you get the masses, even the small fish in there to compute like that, with, like you said, the easier barrier to entry. Right. I think that's going to get more. Right. In the general bucket, that's what you want. That's your goal, right? So that's perfect. Right. And that company will likely, it's called like, it's kind of like how Hyper-PG is. This one would be called HPC installing. It's like a very random. And it's more of an automated type system that's. Any AI. Perfect. So just plug and play in this thing kind of and integrate their software, whatever AI software they want to do the computations they need. Right. And there's not a big vetting process that would be required for like what Hyper-PG is doing with their bigger clients, right? Right. And then we still they're still going to require some professional work, but it's like we call it the 99-1 rule, where like 99% of the work can be done with like 1% of the time. Yep. So that's like that way people can feel like the experience that they went through into installing their software into Hypercycle is a pleasant experience. It was short, it's sweet, and then they started either saving or making more money and more intelligence. Because remember that those are the options they have. If they come to us directly as clients, what we sell software that can get them to make a little bit more money,
can get their AI to get a little bit smarter. But if you go through deployers that they want to reap that benefit, those deployers, they provide them with like 20%, rebate back on whatever they're spending with AWS or whatever they are. And I'd like to remind all of many of you already know that this can be plugged into anywhere they are. It's not asking them to shift from that one computing center to another. If they choose to shift later, they can, but they don't have to. So this is the pretty much like the only solution out there to any AI company to say, it's like, you can stay where you are and you're gonna make more money or get smarter, or you can stay where you are and end up like saving money. Like nobody's doing that. Like people, they'll be like, what is that, magic? And that's when we had to go through a lot of explanations to dissecting. There is no magic. This is how it's done. This is how they make their money. And then we gave the metaphor of the burger, the spice rooms. The spice room. Can I give that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Finally, yes, it's that metaphor.
So let's say
These simple metaphors help us understand a little bit better. This is great.
And you know what? There was not only that, they're actually so good for people to realize that this wealth creation methods that they existed in our civilization long before electricity, they're so valid, they're legit across the board, they work everywhere on the planet. The only place that they haven't been tested is North Korea. Like it's like they work everywhere. You can apply them everywhere. So I'm gonna get in trouble with North Korea one day. I keep making jokes on these guys.
Well, they open up. I know you spent a lot of time in South Korea, right?
Oh my God! Imagine
A lot of times
they
South
kidnapped me
Korea,
at night one
There's
day
gonna
and they
be
shipped me
over
there. Oh my God! Toufii disappeared, and we saw like some flying rocket to North Korea or something.
So this is going to be an issue. We need you to run these teams concurrently. So we need
Right.
you to
So this is actually, if you this metaphor is so good. You burger, let's say In-N-Out Burger. You like In-N-Out Burger. Harris wants to try In-N-Out Burger and ends up liking In-N-Out Burger. And Harris decides to approach In-N-Out Burger and saying like, look, you have one spice room in the entire nation that you make your spices. And I've looked at it, chances are it's costing you $10 million a year. I'm gonna give you $2 million back for every $10 million that you spend. And they're like, yes, we're not gonna listen to you. But if they listen, then they realize that like it's actually for real. And especially if he comes with guarantee, he's like, you know what? Here's $10 million, take it. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. They're coming in advance and saying like, this is not a maybe, this is 100%. I'm gonna give you $2 million. And then they start listening. They're like, what? Well, then what are you doing? So then he tells them what he's doing. And it's like, next to your spice room, I'm opening another spice room right next to it. And my chef is gonna like have visibility on everything that you do, where you source all your products, everything. He's gonna source exactly everything into his spice room that is next to it. And he pays for his own spice room. Basically, he's going to have your spices sold at Walgreens, sold at TDS, sold everywhere. And because of that, he's going to make a lot of money. And because he's going to make that money, he's going to pay you that 20%. And the longer he stays, the more he's going to continue paying you that. If he unplugs, he stops paying you. If he keeps the plug, he's paying you. So furthermore, in 15 months, he's going to pay you 40%. He's going to give you $4 million. And then you're like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. You might say it's not cool because my spices are more like the secret sauce for Coca-Cola. Okay, well, if that is the case, then how about the buns? Maybe the buns can work with buns. Maybe the pickles. Effectively, do each and every aspect of that burger and then start selling them into every single store across the globe. And when they realize that that's the case, they might say, it's like, okay, well, damn, now can we still do it? And the answer is like, yes, of course you can. Like, he's not restricting you even from doing it. You can still do it. But then someone might ask, how is that fair for for Harris, that's like, he did all the work, he built all the channels, and we can do it. Well, he built the channels, he's already got the channel, he's already selling to CVS. Chances are CVS, they're not going to come and buy from you anymore because he's already got a phenomenal relationship with them. And he's got already phenomenal relationship with Walgreens. They already know the truck when he comes, how much they need, and all the payments and all of those things already been established. And that established that's kind of we call it tilling type of thing. So this has already been tilling for quite some time. So there's not going to be. So if they choose to do that in and out, they can do it. And they can start selling, and then they might end up selling to Whole Foods. Are they competing with him? Hell yeah, they're competing with him now. But so what? He knew what he's getting into to begin with, and he's got a business that's paying $2 million, probably making him 20, because those spices, everybody, they already got brand recognition. People, they like them. Now they feel that they want to buy them. They might use them for the shawarma. They might use them for all kinds of stuff. So precisely that's what these guys are doing. Our clients, that's what they're doing to AI companies. They're coming to AI companies like, look, you're spending this much money per month. You've got, chances are you've got something of value. And if you have this thing of value, we're going to give you that percentage, but we're going to be able to sell the components of your AI and the Internet of AI, and we reap the benefit of it. We grow that value. We do all of these things. So yeah, so that's exactly what they're doing. There's no magic. The magic is explained, and once it's explained, it's dissected. Some in and out, they might choose that they want to do it themselves. They're like, oh, well, thanks for the idea. We're going to do it themselves. They call Hypercycle, they buy plus direction. Hypercycle. It's okay. He's not going to feel so bad. If that's the case, chances are they're not going to do that right away. Chances are they're going to let it go, see if it works, then they will do it. Because they're not going to understand something new to them, and it's going to cost them money. But if something's going to give them money, they go for it. So that's been a phenomenal way of closing business on the HyperPG. And we love to see that with us, with Hypercycle, that we have a relationship with our clients, which is same. I'm going to talk about like Hyper Appliance, if you allow me to, which is also, I feel like that they crack the code into getting those appliances into every single household across the planet. Every single household, they crack the code. I'm telling you, they crack the code. So I'm going to tell it to you.
And yeah, tell us that. Why is that important? Why is that so crucial? And I know you talked about having like this home base and multiple households.
Yes.
Why is that such a crucial part to this whole ecosystem?
Okay, this ecosystem and the entire internet in general, and the internet of AI. So that anchoring of those devices, they're going to, if they exist in every single household, in every single office, everywhere there's internet. It is the future of AI is likely to become phenomenally decentralized, meaning that it's going to be phenomenally secure from that perspective. Resilient to a lot of attacks. So people, they feel like the more a system is resilient, the more they want to be part of it, and everybody would win. So that's the final selfish reason for us why we would want it. But what's in it for them? Well, the devices, they have two things that they don't exist in the cloud. Just that's it. They're only two things. Number one, based on the laws of physics, nothing travels faster than the speed of light. And every computer scientist and AI scientist will tell you that the bottleneck of AI has been in the network. So when you have something that is running that is very close to whoever could be requesting, they are likely to win those bids every second. So that's like pure science. Okay. The second is more a societal thing. And what do I mean by that? 99% of people on the planet Earth, if you tell them, can you set up like, an instance in the cloud and run your node or whatnot, they're like, you're saying words that are like, they're bothering me. I don't know what you're saying. 99% are going to tell you that. Like, set up an instance in the cloud and a node and let that node propagate and grow or whatnot. They're like, but 99% of people on planet Earth, they know how to set up their fridge and they know how to set up like the internet at home. Or I should say 99% of people, they have internet. They can do that. So those are the two things that device has that everyone is able to get it. Now everyone's able to get it, but would everyone get it and spend the $1,200? That's what I felt that like actually we cracked the code with some of those partners that it started with somebody with the name June. He goes by Max, and now they have one for US and Canada. So these guys, can I tell you now, or do you want?
Yeah, go ahead. And I have one more question about what you just said. So
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
So now we're talking about why we're so confident that Hyper Appliance finally cracked the code into getting that device in every single household, in office and whatnot. So they started by saying if you spend $500 on a box, and people they want to spend $1,000 on the license and $10,000 on the tokens, whatnot, people feel like, wait, $12,000 am I going to spend, or $3,000 if they have one, they're not going to do it. Not everyone wants to, but one of the distributors, as we're conversing with them, he's like, instead of buying $1 million worth of devices, that's like 1,000 devices from Evan from Hyper Appliance, and selling them for like 1.2 million or 1.4 million and make that delta and have to do a lot of work to do that. Instead, I'm still going to spend $1 million, but I'm going to give subscription to homes. They take that device. If they take care of it, they keep it on the entire month, then it's going to make the money. They pay me $100. Subscription model, $100 per device per month. And that's very similar to like phones. You subscribe to your telco, they give you the phone. So when you subscribe for $100, people, they're like, you might ask, but yeah, not a lot of people are going to add that $100. He's adding a condition. He's saying, if it doesn't make you more than 100, I'll send somebody to pick it up. We'll take it back.
Oh, so it's a guarantee, basically.
It's a guarantee,
right?
Guaranteed.
So, perfect.
If it makes you 101, chances are you're going to keep it. If it makes you 100, you might question it. Less than 100, you're probably going to return it, or you might be patient a bit. You might say, it's like, you know what? And here's the other guarantee thing. If it's less than 100, you just pay less than 100 if you just keep it.
So
it's
this
like,
is the solution is they basically get free hardware in everybody's home to be able to run
Yes.
all their licenses.
But
and
then,
tokens,
but
correct?
then you might ask, like, what's the skin in the game? Well, skin in the game, these people, they're committing work, they're committing time, they're committing their electricity, they're committing their location. There is a skin in the game.
and their
It's
tokens
beautiful.
and their licenses, correct?
Well, those that could come from everywhere, because
From
we're
anybody.
talking about the people.
So you're basically sitting on a
Vast
gold
majority.
network of hardware, right?
Right.
So that could be the solution that a lot of people are looking for right now, to have a cloud type hardware system to where they can plug all their licenses and their tokens into.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So if everybody had this hardware running in their home, paying the subscription model, getting
Yes.
paid the 32% that Todd was talking about at the beginning,
Right.
for example,
They could do
that's how
that.
that connects that dot, right?
They could do that, or so then they would end up entering our world with two options. One option is that like it makes them more than $100 a month, and they cash out every month. That's one option, and that's great. That's what they want to do. They want to cash out. That's good. That's what they're happy with. The other option is that they want to actually build the business. They're not interested in just like cashing out. They really buy into this idea of like, what? I'm giving the opportunity to put this device at home, that I could have something that is worth $1.2 million in 5 years, maybe 10 years. I want to be part of this. What's my portion? And that would be back to the question. Their portion is probably going to be 60% of that $1.2 million. Why? Because they don't own the license and the tokens.
Right.
If they choose to own the license and tokens,
99%. Right.
then they would buy exactly. And they've got like pretty much like then for that $100, they're basically getting the 99% plus. Of course, they bought the tokens, they bought the licenses. But we're assuming the vast majority of the people, when they're choosing A or B, they're not going to give a penny from their pocket. They're just going to, their skin in the game is that they're putting in the effort to receive this device at home, to plug it into the wall, to keep it connected to the internet, to keep it with good temperature, have electricity and network and all that. That's their skin in the game, and that's good enough for them to choose A or B. In that's why I really think that these guys cracked the code.
No, that's really good. What that does, I mean, the way you set that up and the way that that could distribute and be a whole network for everybody is really cool. The only missing link now that I have a question about is when I was talking with Barry a little bit about this, is the integration software to allow everybody to hook up their married licenses to this whole network. There's a piece of software that's needed, I guess, to be able to integrate all that. How far along is that software or that type of stuff?
Are we talking about the actual marriage itself?
No, not the marriage. Once we get the marriage done, that's fine. That's easy. I'm talking about once they get the marriage done with the R and the S tokens, how do they distribute that in a way that all this software is going to be able to use the licenses, or all this hardware is going to be able to use the license and the tokens? So that's distributed correctly.
Right. Okay. So when in this model in the very early days of it, when you're actually like doing the tilling, it's in the early days it's inconsequential. In the long term, it is important. Why it is inconsequential in the early days? Because the tilling is building that value because of the effort that you're doing, so it's great. But when you're actually going to say that, like, you know what, those are my two devices that I'm running at home, which is something that I highly recommend people. They don't get one device, get two. Okay, but if you have the ability to you find it like, oh, they're sold out, but we can't get more. But I think they have a form that they say just enter and say like how many do you want, and then they keep adding into like how many people they actually want those, which is great. But now back to answer your question. Every one of those devices, they have a serial number, and the serial number is attached on the bottom of it, but it's sometimes also on the top. And when you get, like I said, those boxes, you get that sticker, you can put it. If you are not using those boxes, using some different method, which is we will know about some of those, that they're like off-the-shelf method that they would exist, so that people can plug them, or like let's say some sort of like hardware that somebody is doing cloud or some server or whatnot. That will have a similar model of like, this is what's running, and this is your marriage license. That marriage license, the hypershare. If you want to bring this specific, because you own this, into that, your question is like, when is that? So the technology to do this, we've already built this. We still can do this, and we can do it like 6 months ago.
Right.
But your question is like, how can that enablement into the users to do this?
Well, I guess
To
rephrase my question maybe, because I understand that each of those hyperboxes have software with that license key that actually needs to feed over to the C Hypercycle, that to be able to run and integrate together.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a way to pool all those pieces of hardware together in one pool? So you have that pool, all that hardware across the globe that's not being used or that can be utilized. And then another pool of us trying to submit our married tokens and licenses to. Is there a way to do that simply so that automates and goes and finds a piece of hardware that's not being used?
Right.
And then utilize the hardware that's not being used and not have to go grab that string of numbers off of the software or within.
Right.
Because each of those boxes has a specific software license that needs to be integrated into the contract.
Right.
That node, so the license can be activated.
Right now, it's Hyperpool that does that. But you want
Is there a way to automate
Mhm.
a pool of hardware across the globe?
Yes.
And us plugging in our licenses, our married licenses, and then automatically activate and start computing.
Yes, I think that's eventual.
Okay.
And I don't have the answer when it's coming out live for
that's-
people, but I can tell you that technology is possible. And currently, the way you do it, like right now, you just go to the pools.
Yeah.
So right now, you just like let the pool, let them do that work. But if somebody wants to do it, the principal wants to be able to look into those devices, be like, I want to plug into 15 devices in South Korea, although I'm not there, you'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then imagine you do that and they turn out to be 15 devices in North Korea. And we've been saying all this stuff about North Korea.
I think what you talked about, that general network of hyper appliances is really cool. And I think that was really valuable for everybody that's going to watch this episode. So
Yes.
that alone, I think, is pretty exciting.
Yes.
Your excitement is contagious.
Yes.
By the way, the stuff that you feed, we feed off this stuff.
I
think it's important.
I have one of my children here in the room, Harris, and he would vouch throughout my life. If something that I don't believe in 100% and I would buy, I can't sell it. I can't do anything. I can't even but if once I actually believe in something full-heartedly and I can justify every single bit of it, every single mathematical equation and whatnot, it is contagious. Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Well, Toufii, thank you so much. I think we're going to wrap this episode. I think it's been really dense, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of the value out of this. So
Yes.
compact knowledge. That's what I mean by dense.
Can I say a couple of things though before?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I want to say a couple of things. One is that although I've promised not to talk about future things, that I'm talking about those future things.
We love to hear it though. We do.
It's okay,
So.
it's okay. It's okay, but back then, and I've kind of adjusted why we pushed the actual compute to do it, right? Because remember, guys, you don't want a proof to go out and somebody saying it's like, oh yeah, it's good. No, you want somebody who's like, it's amazing. That's the answer we're trying to actually get. Okay,
The first impression, right?
Right. So if things are taking a little more time, it's just because that's what we're aiming for. Amazing excellence. Okay. The other thing is that I wanted to say that is extremely important. We remain agnostic, and we want to continue to be agnostic to every single technological things that exist in the world. We're not just for AI big companies. We're not just for like the decentralized world or whatnot. We're not just. The reason why we're super agnostic, because the vast majority of people on this planet, they deserve to get the best computation. And if we truly want to get that network to be across the globe, we really need to continue to be agnostic. So that's why we're not really going with one versus the other. When people they say it's like, oh, what, you're working with like the Microsoft stuff? Guess what? Microsoft is 180 nodes to us. We don't see Microsoft as like a central entity. There are 180 nodes in the globe of why do I know 180 nodes? Because that's how many HPC centers that they have or whatnot, right? If somebody's listening from Microsoft, you say like, how do they know there's like 180? Like maybe they have 200 now, whatever. Point is that like we see them as part of this global decentralized things. We're truly working really hard. So then see somebody who could be the CEO of Microsoft, when they're gonna look at this down the road, you're going to be like, if we don't partake in this, I'm gonna get fired. Like that, we're truly, really, really working on it, as opposed to trying to make it the other way around. Like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. They're not gonna do what you should do. We're actually working with the current rules of our civilizations, applying those, getting them to see the value in them based on what they understand the rules are, and then try to grasp it from there. And lastly, I just want to say something that Nick and I we talked about before, and there's some territory that we are jumping in, which it's extremely important that I talk about it now, because people, if they hear about it, some places that they feel like, how come you didn't tell us this or whatnot? But it's extremely important to talk to our community about it and all that. It's like, so one of the territories that we're entering, and I've already checked, and we can't talk about that part, but we cannot talk about what happens after and all that. And in fact, we might hand it off to a different group to manage it or whatnot, and that's been progressing quite nicely. It's the quantum computing part, because the quantum computers are going to facilitate in the hypercycle computation node. If you were to look at it, there's like the VM, there's the AM, there's the TM, there's going to be QM as well, which enables all of the computation nodes to be part of that network. So from our community, we're doing it solid. This is great. When we get those things worked out for like the big HPC centers, or whatever confidentiality they want to work on, whatever classified things they want to keep it classified, it's not going to hurt any of our community. If anything leaks out ever to the news, it's going to be all in the positive. We're doing really, really our best to ensure that that's going to be the case. And so I want to make sure that like, if we don't talk about this, this is not like it's something that's being dissipated. Not if anything, it's just because that's what they're asking for. And we respect people what they ask for. Those can be phenomenal big clients, and they can be phenomenal big JVs and all that. But we keep it. We let them run. So yeah. So that's
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's great, and I appreciate your time. Obviously, I think it's going to be very valuable for everybody to listen. A lot of valuable stuff in there, and a lot of exciting stuff. Like I said, your excitement's contagious, and I think that's going to come through in the messaging here. So thank you so much, Toufii.
Thank you.